Hey, what's up guys? Another knife to review today for you. We're looking at a Heckler and Koch knife. This is my first. For all intent purposes, it is a Benchmade. Benchmade is the knife company that's making these and branding them for Heckler and Koch. And you know, you can expect what you would out of a mid-range Benchmade knife from this as far as quality. I saw a lot of H&K knives when Benchmade had their Redline series of stuff. They did H&K and they also did Harley Davidson. And then of course they got a lot of flack for having knives made overseas, so they got rid of the Redline and you know, moved around their production a little bit there. These are made, in fact, in the United States of America. Okay, it says USA right in the blade there, USA right in the box. Very proud, very, you know, open. This is a USA made knife. But it is made by Benchmade. It's just not a red class. It's a new thing. That's all. It's just an H&K. But you won't find Benchmade anywhere on the blade at all. They just make the knife, you know, for the company. It happens quite often. Actually, even within certain knife companies have other knife companies making their knives. At least it's been so in the past. I'm not going to go into details on that, but it is what it is. You have a facility that makes knives. A company wants to have their own knife. You don't have the equipment. You pay that company to make it for you any way you want. And that's what happened here. H&K gave them the specifics as of what they wanted in a knife, and Benchmade made for them. So this is the model 14410. Okay, should be on the box. Yep, in Benchmade style, you can tell. But anyway, yeah, the SOLDAT. That's what it's called. SOLDAT. And if you want to buy one of these, they are SOLDAT knife hug. Yes, thought long and hard about that joke. Yeah, no, they're obviously sold everywhere. I don't know where the name SOLDAT came from, or if it's an acronym or something. But yeah, that's what it's called if you're looking for it. I say knife hog because that's where this one came from. It's the third knife I got from that company. I really like it. You know, the company themselves has been really good. They even threw me a discount code for you guys. I mentioned that I was going to be reviewing these, and they're like, oh, okay, cool. Well, if your viewers want a discount, I'm going to give you a code for it, which is awesome. It's CUTLOVE, all capitals, CUTLOVE, and you get 5% off your first purchase from the website if you never used them before. So I thought that was pretty cool for newcomers. There is another version of this knife, all right, the 14411, and that has a drop point blade with, I believe it's also plain edge, all right? So if this doesn't float your boat as far as a blade style, they do make a drop point. All right, but I kind of want to test this out. I usually steer clear of Tanto or Tonto styled knives. It's not my thing personally, but I do like the variety. I do like the versatility of trying different things. I know what I like, but you know what? My opinions may change. So I always try things I don't necessarily I'm infatuated with, which include both Tanto as well as combo edges. All right, but as far as performance, it's worked out just fine. Most of like EDC cutting chores, you know, the big debate whether you should get a Tanto knife or not, you know, something with a little bit of belly or more of a natural line to it. You know, it's personal preference. They all cut stuff. You know, obviously there's going to be specific testing that shows one is better than the other in a specific situation. But again, for an EDC knife, honestly, it doesn't matter. Whatever floats your boat as far as how it looks. I do prefer, however, a nice, you know, belly on my EDC blades. All right, they do happen to be better slicers, which is what you're doing most of the time, you're slicing. Anyway, on to some specs on this knife. This has a 3.3 inch N680 blade. All right, N680, not N690. The big deal with N680, or its claim to fame, is really the corrosion resistance. This is supposedly more corrosive resistant than S30V. I don't know that personally. I didn't do any kind of like destruction test and getting this wet and stuff like that, but only used it in one situation where it was wet, and I dried it off afterwards. So I don't know, you know, offhand if it is literally better than like something like S30V or a lot of other steels out there as far as corrosion resistance. But that's what it's pitched as. That's why they use it. It's supposed to be more corrosive resistance, but still the same edge holding capability. You know, you don't lose anything by adding more corrosion resistance to that steel. It is a very fine structure steel, which means it will take a very nice edge. This did come razor sharp. I'm very happy with the, you know, the factory edge out of the box. Very cool. Rockwell 57 to 58. Definitely a little bit softer. Not a big deal. 7.7 inches overall. And another big thing about this one is it's very light, 2.8 ounces. All right. This has a Grivery molded handles, okay? You see there's lots of, oh, I'll talk about that in a second, all the grip. But anyway, it's a plastic, it's a synthetic, all right? Feels very much like a Griptilian. There's no internal metal structure at all. There's no liners, all right? So that cuts on the weight quite a bit. Is it strong enough without the liners? Probably. It's just fine. Any you know, synthetic or plastic knife handle, when they have liners in them, the steel liners, what it really does for me, or you know, why I may prefer something like that, is because I have more strength around the pivot for torque. If for some reason I'm in a situation where there's a twisting action, I want some steel in that pivot. I don't want just plastic, okay? Because obviously, even though these are very strong, it's not quite as strong as steel. But yeah, the big pitch here is that it's a very lightweight knife. 2.8 ounces, it really disappears in the pocket. It also carries very well. You can see it's tip up, it is reversible to left or right hand carry, oversized lanyard hole in there. What's interesting, most companies do this anyway, but I thought I'd point out in case you never saw this before, but when you have a synthetic handle or a plastic handle, your screws should really be beefed up with some kind of metal. In this case, the threading is in pieces of brass, okay, as opposed to just in the plastic. Obviously, if something like a pocket clip, especially if it's swappable, you might be taking that on and off all the time, and every single time you would screw through plastic threading, it would you know, lose its shape and it would strip out very easily. Okay, so it's just a nice little touch, not a big deal because so many people do it already. But if you're looking at knives out there that are plastic, you know, or synthetic, ABS or, you know, Zytel, Grivery, whatever is floating people's boat these days, you know, make sure that little detail's there, okay? Especially if you're one that's playing with your pocket clip all the time, taking it on and off your knives. Having the reinforced brass threading in there is just a nice little touch, something I noticed. All right, something else about this knife is it is very smooth. Bronze phosphorus washers in here. The button lock locks up very nice. I will say I did adjust this a little bit. Out of the box, new. I needed to tighten it like the slightest bit just to rid side-to-side play. There was a tiny bit in there. It really was barely noticeable, but it's something that I wanted to take out of this knife, and by doing so, made the blade just a little bit stiffer. Not a big deal. Very easy to flick open. I can drop the blade down to close it. Takes a little bit more oomph. It's not going to freely drop. If I push this button, you can see it's stiffer. It's not swinging, you know, like you would taking the tension off an axis lock or something of that sort. But totally adequate, totally fine. Like I said, easy to open and close, and it is nice and smooth. As far as texturing on this knife, there's all kinds of cool, you know, looks like diamond plate, you know, texturing everywhere. The whole back spacer is ridged. This knife is not very grippy at all. As far as the texturing on the side, it's too smooth. Overall, it's too smooth of a pattern. It does not grip the finger. You can feel the pattern, but it's a very slick knife. That whole ridged back spacer is actually recessed the slightest bit, so when I go like this, I don't feel any of those ridges. I'm feeling the sides very smooth. So, word of warning, not a whole lot of grip in this one. As far as ergonomics, nice finger control, that's cool and everything. It is fat. It's a chunky one, okay? You can see it tapers down a tiny bit, okay, from here to here. So it's ergonomic, but it is chunky in the hand. I think that if you like a full-size Griptilian, you would like this knife very much. If you hate the way a Griptilian feels, which a select few out there just can't get past that cheap, plasticky feel of a Griptilian, you will not like it. It is identical. It's identical feel, chunky, plasticky. It feels like a kid's toy. If you're used to a lot of heavier knives and G10 and carbon fiber and titanium and all that other crap, it's going to feel like a downgrade to you. It's going to feel like a cheap plastic knife. It's not a cheap plastic knife, but that's how it's going to feel to you. Same as a Griptilian would. So, you know, word of warning for that. That's something you won't pick up on looking at, you know, stock photos on websites, all right? The feel on this, it is a cheaper feeling knife. It doesn't bother me that much. You know, however, the ergonomics on it is good enough where I don't mind that it's a little bit chunkier. Okay, it's definitely not a thin profile by any means. You know, overall with this knife, I do like it. I like it a lot. Is it the best knife you're gonna find for, you know, 55 bucks or so? Probably not, but it's definitely an option out there. I think if you are an H&K fan, you know, obviously the gun company, it's a must buy. I know there's a lot of hardcore USP carriers and stuff, and if that's your thing, why not have a cool knife that matches it, you know, for your EDC? It is good enough for, you know, an EDC knife. Like I said, not the best option as far as my personal preference goes, but as far as the materials are concerned, it is totally adequate. It slices okay. Like I said, Tantos aren't going to be inherently the best slicers, but it comes razor sharp. It sharpens up very nicely. You can put that edge back on very easily with the N680. You know, so it's not a bad option. Not my favorite. It's just, I mean, there's a novelty of it being H&K. If you put any other name on this at all, it would just be kind of a random knife that's not so bad, you know? So for me, it's really take it or leave it. It doesn't blow me away. It doesn't disappoint me. There's one more thing I want to discuss with this real quick, and it has to do with the ergonomics of it. What I noticed very quickly when I got this knife that I've gotten over and I've gotten used to it, but you need to know it before you buy this particular knife, is that because this has an opening hole, and because the frame pushes out a little bit here, and the distance between the pivot and the opening hole, what happens is when you're opening this, your thumb rubs on the corner of this frame. It starts right here, it's rubbing, it's rubbing, it's rubbing. It's actually pushing my thumb away from the opening hole, which is not good, okay? So if you're flicking this open, it's never gonna be an issue. If you're someone who's opening it slowly, you're gonna feel your thumb wanting to slide off of that because the frame's in the way. All right, you can see it's just too close to the opening hole as it pivots around. All right, so it starts here, your thumb's rubbing, rubbing, and then that's when it finally releases. Not the biggest deal in the world, something you definitely have to get used to, okay? Be mindful of that, all right? Like I said, most of you are just flicking these things out anyway, so it shouldn't be that big of a deal. The other thing to note is the inside of the hole, it's not as sharp of an angle as the Spyderco's. The Spyderco opening holes are, it's like a 90-degree cut right into the stock, and it makes for a very sharp edge on the inside. Now, most people would think that's bad, but when you're trying to grip something, that sharp edge is what grabs the pad of your thumb. All right, so it's a little bit more effective in some cases and uncomfortable in others. Just depends on how you're opening your knives. But anyway, with this one, just something to note, your thumb is gonna rub on that frame a little bit. So by design, I would have either knocked this corner off a little bit here, or, you know, space the hole a little bit further. I mean, like just the tiniest bit, so it's not rubbing. But anyway, worth mentioning for a review, of course. Oh, pocket clip on this, just, you know, normal Benchmade style, although it sports the H&K logo on there. Very good tension, and again, those non-grippy scales that look intensely, you know, checkered and stuff, totally fine in the pocket, all right? No issues at all with grabbing too much or pinching or ripping up the pocket. This is actually a very smooth handle to pocket clip combination, so very easy to carry, and it carries very well. Once again, this is how it's gonna carry. All right, that's what's peeking up out of the pocket, so it's not a low riding clip by any means. That little bit of a pointed butt, you know, might aid you as far as like striking and stuff if you were considering this to be a defensive knife. But anyway, I gotta get a new pocket. Someone mentioned it recently. I used to have, for review purposes, a cutout pocket from a pair of shorts that didn't fit me anymore. And I would show how each knife clipped in there. I gotta do that again. I don't know what happened to it. I think it got thrown out or used for a cutting demo or something. But yeah, stay tuned. You'll see some pocket testing in the future. So that's all. Thanks for watching. Hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I will see you soon. Take care.